What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer. Taking a look at some of the most just crazy supports to ever come out for Dogmatika. This card's absolutely insane. So I'm gonna go ahead and just show it off. So I just did a combo test hand video, taking a look at it, and here's the actual gameplay for it. Yeah, the card's as good as advertised, 100%. So these are normal Dogmatika plays, but now they're just 10 times better. This card is absolutely nuts. Your opponent just has to get rid of half their extra deck. More than half, actually, by the time this is done. Before you do anything, you can just plus 100,000%. Okay, there goes half your opponent's extra deck. Oops. So I did end up sending Guru, which lets him draw a card, obviously, but I was thinking of the only card that really outs this board for realsies is Super Poly. And I just got rid of his only Super Poly target that would be useful for this. DD Crow is searchable, but I drew it in my hand. The Omni Gate does not come out, but this is actually a pretty good card for the deck. And then, this deck just minuses like crazy. So he goes for Cystidia King Pass. Yeah, that's not going to be enough. I could normal summon and go into an Alistair the Invoker play, but at the same time, I can send Elder, give myself follow-up, right? The special summons Dogmatic, Khaleesi, Search Fleur. Plus, I already have, a monster negate with Makaba. Wasn't really necessary. This was a match. He ended up beating me in game 2, and then I go in game 3, and this hand's nuts. When you get to use this with the ritual spell, I don't even think I get to in this turn. So it's just more like a general gameplay video of just how versatile. If you have open one of the ritual spells, great. If you don't, then you just do normal Invoked Dogmatika Spellbook stuff. And that regular stuff is insane. The great thing is now you can search a spell card that you can always activate. It works so well with Spellbooks. So you just get to add a DD Crow there, Dogmatika Punishment, end phase, get to summon in +3. I talked about this during the combo video, but this deck is literally just a numbers game. You would just have too many resources for your opponent out. He had Sphere Mode, and it's actually just not enough, which is just kind of nuts. Absolutely nuts. Could have gone for end phase Dogmatika Punishment, popping the back row, but I figured if whatever it wasn't really useful. I can't possibly imagine what this card would be. But I end up banishing it anyways with Spellbook of Fate, which is fine. I can go for this. Again, by the time your opponent breaks your board, you're gonna have a fresh card, your fresh 6 cards in your hand, plus whatever disruption your opponent didn't do. Right? He did Sphere Mode, which means I never had to use Dogmatika Punishment. So I also am have a Spellcaster unaffected for this turn. I have an out for Winged Dragon of Raw Sphere Mode. Can't be targeted for attacks or card effects. This doesn't target. Spellbook of Fate just banishes a card. So you basically have the out to everything in this deck, which is always a good thing. And then I have plenty enough for damage, you know what I mean? Which is great because I didn't even touch the Spellbook stuff, and I dominated. Or what I really mean is that I didn't touch the ritual stuff. But I'm going to show plenty of gameplay. This is a really good one where this card just looks absolutely nuts. I can't wait for this card to come out. I will pay $100 for it if I have to. This version of the deck is so good. And the Spellbook of Knowledge is just literally Pot of Greed in this deck, which is always great. So before I do anything, I'm just going to plus 50,000 times. So I can go ahead and send Sure Egg, and this is also the Titan Cloud of the Ash Dragon is also going to plus me during the end phase. And then my opponent just sends, the majority of their extra deck to the graveyard. And then I get to send an extra one. So his Fallen of Albaz or his branded fusions, absolutely useless. There aren't targets for it, right? He can go into these, but there's no fusion to go into. So he can activate branded fusion, but it's okay, where are you going with this? Nowhere. You know what I mean? This deck, when these two cards come out, your opponent is losing over half of their extra deck. And obviously the extra deck in today's modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is you're out for everything. Here's against Floowandereeze, which you would think would be a pretty bad matchup, but he actually doesn't have that many great things to send to the graveyard. He does do Nova, which is kind of interesting, but you'll see here that even Elder does nothing against the ritual, at all. This card's nuts, so my opponent's going to just have to send most of their extra deck to the graveyard. I go ahead and send Nova. Going into Makaba, he thinks he can negate it. It's unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's. He keeps trying, he keeps going for it, but it doesn't do anything. Okay, it's unaffected by extra deck monsters of every type, and there we go. The cool thing about this is he didn't do much with whatever he had, He lost most of his extra deck, which is fine because you're thinking it's Floowandereeze, but if he top decks, like, I don't know, like Pot of Extravagance, he can only draw one card. So, like, it becomes infinitely worse. And he ends up negating this, but I still have, you know, the negate with Fleur. So whatever monster he ends up going for, I have the negate for it. He does go for Apex Avion, and maybe I should have, like, I should have gone for the Fleur, you know, to get rid of this unexplored winds. But I figured if he had a Flu in his hand, like, my best chance of survival, like, by far, you know, was the Fleur. So I ended up keeping it. But now I can destroy it knowing he has absolutely nothing in his hand. He Ash Blossoms my Search of DD Crow, which is absolutely useless in this matchup, which is super, super funny. And I end up just kind of passing because I didn't... It was worth the draw, too. There was nothing left in my extra deck that I wanted to send to the graveyard that would be good. Normally in game 2 or whatever, like if I'm going second and I know I'm going second for a fact, normally I'll side out the ritual stuff. Isn't that awesome? You can send something like 5-Headed Dragon to boost us up to 7,000 attack. Lots of cool little interactions in this deck for sure. Last thing I'll show you is a matchup against Tearlaments. This card, useless against this. So I do open Spellbook of Knowledge, and this is game. It's over. You open Spellbook of Knowledge, Alistair plus Nadir Servant. Most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, you're probably winning the duel. Your opponent has to draw Darkwill and Amor Forbidden Droplets, or they lose straight up. In this case, Darkwill and Amor was not even enough. So obviously, I'm just going to summon from the deck. And again, I think the benefit is that I didn't draw into the ritual stuff, but I don't depend on it. It's not my win condition at all. I have multiple win conditions on this deck. And then once you just draw the out to this, like your opponent's only out most of the time, 90% of the time, right? Because they have to draw the out. They have to draw the Dark Rune or more, or else they lose. Is to normal something, which is great against Sprite. Because I don't, like, the only normal summon monster that can get over Jowgen is, I don't remember the name of it. Some players don't even, like, I think it's called Pixies. I think most players don't even play Pixies, so they don't have a normal summon to get over this. So sometimes this is straight up just a win condition, which is awesome. This one is great because I'm not going to be able to use the ritual, but it's just a spell. Being able to activate one more spell most of the time is enough to get you wins in these duels. Like right now, okay? This is literally an out, okay? So I've invoked Macabre, so I've activated 2 spells, and I just need to activate 1 more. So and then 3 comes out, like you see, like the difference is just huge. It's just like massive difference. Because now I have Jowgen, and his normal summon is Shadal Dragon. All I have to do is get over it. I also have just a follow-up. This interruption I just sent to my turn to my opponent is also follow-up. So I get to add this to my hand. Normal summon. What I'm actually going to do here is, grab the ritual spell, grab an interruption, which is Spellbook of Fate, meaning, like, the idea is maybe I could have gone for Spellbook of Knowledge, but I was thinking if he has this card in your hand, you know what I mean? Or is this not the one? There's one that when your opponent activates, like, a monster effect, it's a free special summon. So maybe it's not this one, but I thought, if he did have this in his hand, I lose. So it's not really worth it to go for a game necessarily, because I'd have to activate a monster effect to do it. He's going to try to normal summon. He can send whatever he wants to the graveyard, but he's never going to be able to summon anything off of it. He's going to try to get over Jowgen. All I have to do is banish this. If I didn't have a way for follow-up to finish this off, which you always do, so it's not really actually ever a factor, right? If you activate Spellbook of Judgment, you're going to get a Spellbook of Fate to your hand. So you're going to have that normal summon out, which is most of the time like all you need to do, which is great. And even if your opponent activated Dark Rule and more, your follow-up includes Spellbook of Wisdom. So also not an out. This deck is so fun, and the ritual makes the deck significantly better. I don't know if it's like 10 times better, but I'd say significantly. The ceiling of the deck just goes up way, way more. Again, making your opponent mill most of their extra deck most of the time, I'm thinking about its tier and Sprite is very, very good. So that's some of the replays there for the ritual monster and the new continuous spell. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.